Welcome to Tiger Sidelines here on MC22. Dave Matter from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Not so much Bo Bayman, who instead of tanning in the lights here is tanning somewhere in the Caribbean. Suichi Terada from the Kansas City Star sitting in. I am Gabe DeArmond. This week we're starting, I guess, talking about basketball because we don't have a whole lot of choice. So we'll start with the good stuff. They beat Ole Miss in a game that was like a lot of other games, except they managed to finish this time.
Yeah, and that's the one. I guess that's one of the differences about this team here lately, and not so much at Arkansas, but at home they've been able to finish close games. They haven't had that long dry spell where they just can't function offensively. As good as Brienne Tyree was in that game, Missouri's Xavier Pinson was even better. So that's a game maybe they can't find a way to win earlier in the year, and right now the way this team is made up, they just made enough plays down the stretch to win.
Yeah, and in that game, Xavier Pinson scores, I think, 32, career high for the third time in 4 games. So that was just the new normal all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, Pinson's been playing great at home. He had a little bit of a rocky game, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, with Arkansas. But I think just the way he's playing, you can just tell. I mean, the team talks about how he's a very confident player, and he doesn't lack any of it. But when he's playing like this and he just has this streak, you can kind of see it in a little. You can kind of see it in his eyes a little bit. I don't know if you guys noticed it post-game, but he definitely has a little perk in his step and all that.
Yeah, confidence not lacking for him. Right. I think at times this year it was lacking for a lot of the rest of the team, but that was, their third win in 4 games. The only loss was LSU, and people came out of that game saying, I think maybe they've turned a corner. The new offense is and everybody wanted to make a big deal of the new offense. It wasn't that different, but Pinson and Smith, rather than taking threes, were just driving in the lane every possession.
Yeah, and then Pinson was hitting the threes that he did take. I mean, he was shooting like 20% for the first 2 months. Now he's, in SEC play, is closer to 40. So that's a big difference. And 2, they're not having to throw the ball down in the post and then watch Jeremiah Tillman turn it over or miss a shot or just commit a foul or something go bad happen. The ball is in their hands, and they're a better team when that's happening. And Drew Smith has been more aggressive, not just shooting, but trying to get to the free throw line, trying to score inside. So that's when this team, the way it's built right now, is at its best.
Well, let's not pretend Reed Nico doesn't like to commit a foul. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, I mean, we come out of that game there, 500, and everybody's going, what if they win out? Maybe they can go to the tournament. Or what do they have to do to get to the NIT? And then, story of Missouri basketball the last 6 years, as soon as you kind of start to feel good, a little regression to the mean at Arkansas on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the vibe I kind of got was that fans weren't actually too mad about the Arkansas loss. I mean, when you make 48% from 3, and I calculated it, they were a 5-game losing streak. They were hitting 31%, so not terrible, but not great. And then they explode for 48. They hit their last 3 straight threes just to win the game. Especially on the road in that atmosphere, I think you just kind of be like, it's one of those games. I mean, I kind of looked at it as Mizzou hitting all those threes against Florida, right? Yeah. You're just hitting at an unsustainable rate. It's just one of those games where teams are hot, and you just kind of shrug your shoulders, say, hey, good game. Let's move on to Vanderbilt.
And it did seem like, I know both you guys were there, I mean, every time Missouri would do anything to make it a game, either Desi Sills or Isaiah Joe would hit a 3, and I know Missouri wanted to blame that on defensive breakdowns, and people made a big deal about Arkansas's leading the country in 3-point defense. I think 3-point defense is kind of an overrated thing, honestly. Yeah. I mean, the shots either go in or they don't.
Right. And Missouri didn't look comfortable. They weren't getting wide open looks. Now, Torrance Watson had a few, but, you let him stay open at this point because he's not hitting anything. That game, in the last 15 minutes, Missouri got within a possession, I think, 8 times. So it wasn't like some of these other games like Mississippi State, or South Carolina where they've got no shot. But every time they did something well, Arkansas did something better on the other end. Either got a steal or came down, hit one of those 3. Sills really killed them. And it's one thing to let Isaiah Joe warm up, even though he hadn't played in 5 games. But Sills is a bench guy who had not been shooting well at all lately, and he comes in and gets 17 on you. I think that hurt him more than anything.
And I will open this up to anybody behind the scenes watching, anybody that has an answer. Jeremiah Tillman is available and then available to just kind of hang out. And he didn't practice. That was the explanation. At this point, we have no idea why anybody might play or not play, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he'll play at Vanderbilt on Wednesday, according to Konzo. He spoke about that on his weekly radio show, Tiger Talk. Said both Mark and Jeremiah are trending up in terms of that. But, yeah, we don't really know. I don't know if Dave noticed this, but pregame, he was shooting a lot of threes for some reason. I don't know if that's like a normal.
I mean, nobody
don't
else
think-
can make them, so why not?
I mean, he has a good shooting form. I think he has a better shooting form than some others on the team. But yeah, we're at the point where we just kind of ask Konzo every time we get a chance, hey, how are Jeremiah and Mark doing? And then we get an update and we just kind of go from there.
Yeah, when I went down to the floor and watched him go through, layups and dunks and rebounds, and he didn't look like a guy that was totally locked in, like he was going to play, kind of like he was going through the motions. And easier to say now that we know he didn't play. But with Konzo, I think some of it's just kind of a gut feel. Like, yeah, I've got the okay from the docs that he can play, but he's not ready for this one yet, especially on the road against a team that's small and is going to run up and down the floor a little bit more.
Well, and as frustrating as that is from our point of view, I guess it's better than the coach who always just says, I have nothing to do with it. It's just
Right.
whatever the doctors say, he plays or he doesn't play, which is never true, to be
Right.
quite honest. But so let's get to this real quick, and we'll talk more about it later because I've seen some of the Twitter questions. But if Jeremiah Tillman or Mark Smith plays, I think that they win that game on Saturday. If they both play, I have almost no doubt they win that game.
Yeah, I think going in, you looked at it as, will Isaiah Joe or Jeremiah Tillman play? Well, Arkansas got Isaiah Joe, Mizzou didn't get Jeremiah Tillman. And even if Tillman was on a minutes count like he was against Texas A&M, I think he still grabs a rebound on like Reed Nico did. And that matchup for Jeremiah, he probably would have feasted on. I think they would have actually gotten the ball to him down low in the post. I know they were looking at, I think 6'6", Jimmy Wood Jr. was on Reed a few times and they just couldn't get the ball to him. I think that changes with Jeremiah, just with positioning and everything. So I think that came down to the difference. And if Mark plays, obviously the three-point shooting is probably at least a couple percentage points better, and maybe they could have gotten over the hump.
Well, and we make this so complicated. Look, Arkansas was 12 of 25 from three. Missouri was 4 for 21. Game over. I looked at it. The team with the higher percentage in Missouri's games this year is 20-7.
Right.
I mean, it's not. We want to break every single thing down. You make shots, you win. You miss shots, you lose.
Right, and that was their advantage, not necessarily going into the game, but coming out of the game, it definitely was. Missouri's one advantage could have been the height difference, and that's what it was when they played in Columbia. They had the big edge on rebounding. They did again in this one, even though the 6'10" center and didn't have any rebounds. But you just figure if Tillman's out there, now you got 10 fouls to spare between those two. You've got to get some production out of it to some degree, somehow between the two of them. But, he didn't play, and we saw what we saw.
So they're back a game under 500, 13-14. They're at Vanderbilt Wednesday night. They host Mississippi State Saturday, and like you said, that's one, whatever. You lose in Fayetteville because you always lose in Fayetteville. It's not that big a deal. It was theoretically the toughest game left on the schedule. But now they're in a situation, 4 games left. The NIT isn't anybody's goal, but if you want to get there, you've got to be 3-1 and win a game in Nashville. I mean, you go lose at Vanderbilt, this whole thing is done. And honestly, even if you go 3-1, this isn't progress from last year.
No,
this is the same season.
Not. I mean, it's progress as far as their SEC record will be better. They've already matched their wins from
Against
last
the
year.
worst
and
SEC.
the league is not as good, absolutely. So, yeah, there's not going to be anything at the end of this year unless they make a run in Nashville to say, hey, this team did a lot better. But that's all you can deal with right now is what's in front of you. And these are 3 winnable games for them. There's no doubt about it. The fact that Mississippi State and Alabama are at home, those teams, who knows what they're going to be like. The middle of this league is just so unpredictable from game to game. So it's fortunate that those games are at home, and it's fortunate that their only road game left is at Vanderbilt that's sitting there 1-13.
Yeah, Vandy's only win in 2 years in SEC play is somehow over LSU. But I retweeted it earlier this week. In football and basketball since January 1st of last year, Vandy is 2-39. So if Vandy wins on Wednesday, they have more wins over Mizzou than the rest of the league combined in the last year and a half.
And I will have been there for 2 of them. And the fans, I'm sure, will get very mad at me. Just for some context, my first day on the beat was that Vanderbilt game when Mizzou, number 22 Mizzou, so I did cover a ranked Mizzou team in my tenure here, lost to Vanderbilt in a very, I believe, the beginning of the
slide, I think, definitely. Yeah, so men 13-14, 5-9, I think, in the league. Still technically not playing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Ahead of Arkansas in the league standings, who is apparently a bubble team if you listen to people, which I may not watch the NCAA
It's crazy.
tournament.
The wild thing about the SEC is the seedings, and the last couple of weeks I've been seeding it out to what it would look like in Nashville. It's exactly the same this week, Tuesday, as it was last week. Nothing changed, even though there were some upsets in the league. Right now, Missouri would be the 10 seed. and they would open up against number 7 seed Texas A&M, which is the team that they can't beat.
Because and everybody but Kentucky just loses games to average teams, which is what this league is full of. All right, women's side, they beat Vanderbilt 78-66. They beat Ole Miss 82-67. Anybody know if those teams are any good?
Ole Miss women is the Vanderbilt men's team basically, or the women's team. They are really bad, but nice for them. They're sitting at 5 conference wins, and they've got I think 3 SEC road wins, which I don't care how bad the league is. It's not bad. Those teams are bad, but that's hard to do.
The women's team is actually on the bubble not the bubble for the women's NIT, but the women's NIT actually takes 64 teams. So if they win their last 2 games and then make a little bit of noise, they actually get the automatic qualifier through the SEC tournament. So their season isn't dead either. And it does help that 32 more teams get into the women's NIT.
Right.
I don't think many people know that, but that is a nice little perk. I think any experience you can get, especially for the freshmen, are just going to help a ton.
Yeah, I meant to research women's NIT bracketology before the show, but I didn't get to it. They'll host Auburn on Thursday night, 7 o'clock. They play Alabama on Sunday to close out the regular season because the women play 2 fewer games and have the league tournament a week earlier than the men. I guess it's 2 fewer games just so they can play the week before the men do.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the rationale is behind that, but 16's enough.
Right. Especially at this point for Missouri. So that wraps up at least our thoughts on basketball. I'm sure you guys have some thoughts. We're going to come back, look at Twitter, and I have a feeling we have a lot of basketball questions, including who are we firing this week. So we'll get to that after the break. You're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Welcome back to Tiger Sidelines here on MC22 on whatever day of the week you happen to be watching this. It is Tuesday in our world, so Missouri hasn't yet played Vanderbilt or whoever else they play.
Mississippi State.
Yeah, I knew it was one of those Mississippi teams. That's coming up, but this is where we always open it up to Twitter and take your questions. Jason says, have the last few weeks changed your opinion of what Konzo should try to do with his roster in the coming offseason? Have Trey Jackson and Parker Brown done enough to make you feel better about the potential of this team next season? And should Missouri fans feel good if there are no major changes to the roster?
Well, I don't know what our really opinion is that he should do this offseason other than just get the best players available. I mean, he's really only got technically one spot open, the Mario McKinney spot. Now, who knows who's going to leave, who's going to stay? I mean, at this point, I think you just assume people will stay, but you never know in college basketball, especially with this team and this program. But we've seen flashes of Jackson and Brown being, impact guys. Usually it's one at the expense of the other, though. I mean, it's usually if Brown's playing well, Jackson doesn't play much, and the other way around. So I don't know. I pause a little bit on potential and hope for next season because that's kind of what this season was built on, and we saw the guys just didn't develop enough.
Last year at this time, everybody was sitting here going, well, I've seen enough out of Torrance Watson. He's going to be this new guy, and if Mark Smith can just stay on the floor, look where they're going to go next year. But, I mean, how close are they? Because I look at it and they're shooting 30-point-something% from three-point range. If they just match last year's percentage at 36, they've probably got 3 or 4 more wins, and we're talking about NIT definitely, maybe NCAA, not out of the question.
Yeah, it's weird because the first 2 years, Konzo's teams were pretty good three-point shooting teams, and they could rely on that, and it just goes so poorly for them. And I think just the way Torrance finished last year, right, in terms of just fan expectations and what fans were hoping for, it just went crazy. And I think we're going to see the same thing with Pinson a little bit. People are going to be like, this stretch with Pinson, he's going to be the guy next year, one of the guys along with Drew and Mark, and if everyone stays healthy. So I think there is a fair bit of hope, I want to say, just because he brings so many people back. And it's going to be NCAA tournament or bust next year, and we'll see if that's possible. I mean, after this year, I'm feeling a little bit more skeptical in terms of projections.
Right, but that needs to happen next year. And, the Watson thing, it was a little bit the Rosberg effect. Not that he was a senior, but in that doing that in games that completely don't matter is a far different thing than doing it in games where you're playing.
Yeah, and somebody asked me recently, man, he was such a different player at the end of last year. He was driving, getting to the free throw line. Not really. He took like 13 free throws over the last 15 games. He was just making threes. That's what he was doing. And sometimes those shots still look really good, and they're just not falling. So I don't know. I think it can be a confidence thing too. And Mechanical thing, who knows?
Yeah. All right, Scott asks, what would you consider a good first season for Eli Drinkwitz, not just record-wise, but all around, recruiting, staff retention, improved hires, et cetera? I mean, first of all, I don't know about it. It's only about the record, right? I don't care if he keeps all his coaches or changes all of them if he wins enough games.
Yeah, if he goes 5-7 and misses a bowl game, I don't think we really care who the assistants are.
Right.
I think 7 would make you feel good. I mean, 6 they'd still go to a bowl game, but I don't think anybody's feeling like the future is the brightest thing ever. But 7, you feel like, okay, well, they're better than we were a year ago, and they got a new quarterback and a new staff and all of that. Yeah, but who cares? But the other stuff, yeah, it's nice. It makes for good talk in the offseason, but it's all about the wins.
And the schedule, like we were talking the other day, there were people from Missouri trying to sell us during the coaching search. It's tough because next year's schedule is hard. Next year's schedule is not hard.
Right.
I mean, yeah, Georgia's good and Florida's good and Tennessee's a little better, but you still get to play Arkansas last I checked,
Right.
and you're not playing Alabama.
And you go to Mississippi State, and that's Mike Leach will have them competitive, but every Mike Leach team is susceptible to lose any game also. So it's not like they're going to Alabama or LSU.
Yeah. All right, Tyler wants to know thoughts on the Josh Christopher situation. Any other recruits possibly if we don't get him? Christopher went from a top 5, I guess, to a top 4. Missouri's in it with Arizona State, Michigan, and I think UCLA was the other one. I'm hearing he's probably going to Michigan, play for Juwan Howard. We'll see, but that's the problem about the future is you look at it, and if not him, I don't know. I think it's a big deal if this legislation gets pushed through that transfers might be immediately eligible, because I think Konzo's got to go after an immediately eligible transfer with everything he's got, a wing, whatever. I don't even care what position he plays.
If you can get a double-digit score and just add it to the team and just somebody who can create just a little bit, not even a lot, just a little bit off the dribble, I think that's a very nice compliment, just alongside Pinson and Drew. And if they can shoot threes, I think that would help a lot too.
And you might need a big guy because Reed's gone. We don't really know what Tillman's situation is. Mitchell Smith is not a guy that's going to go inside. But also maybe if you don't get one, maybe all of a sudden we see this, hey, let's just play 4 guards, which we've heard about for 3 years.
Right, and Arkansas is doing it. I mean, sometimes it's 5 guards out there, and it's not, I don't think it's by choice. It's kind of by necessity, and it does work occasionally for them. And the fact that they're still on the bubble and they're sitting there at 5-9 in the SEC. So I would also just keep track of all the coaches on the hot seat and who might lose their job, and they'll go in and poach one of those guys, because that's what they always do.
Yeah, I mean, you need to make sure whoever he gets has been committed somewhere else,
Right.
because that's the only way he's coming here. Steve wants to know, with Mizzou playing better, what futures and roles do Mark Smith and Jeremiah Pat Tillman have going forward? Look, they're better with those guys on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people are getting caught up in Mark Smith would have to replace Xavier Pinson. No, Mark Smith replaces Javon Pickett.
Right.
And you play 3 guards and Tillman instead of Nico, and then whoever the power forward is, you're a better team than you are today.
Yeah, you can't replace Mark shooting, especially with this team, and just the spacing he does. And realistically, if Mark's going to take minutes from anyone, it's going to be Javon and probably Torrance.
Right.
And then Mark, I think you can just plug and play a little bit easier than Jeremiah. I mean, he's coming off screens, he's shooting 3-pointers. Like, you don't have to fundamentally change your offense too much, especially with what Drew and X have been doing. But then Tillman is a little bit of a stickier case just because you do have to feed him a little bit. But I also think, Dave, you mentioned this before, just having 5 extra fouls, concerning how foul-prone this team is, and Reed especially is, I think that goes a long way.
And we've seen Reed play better in some matchups this year. I mean, obviously not at Arkansas. So if you get the new Reed plus anything you get from Tillman, I mean, it can be an upgrade. So, yeah, they're not. If it screws everything up, what's there really to screw up at this point? I mean, they're 5-9.
Bringing Tillman back doesn't mean you change everything and go back to running the offense through him. It means, okay, this is what we do now. You fit into it if you want to play.
Right.
Motley Zoo says, does Stirk start putting out feelers now for Konzo's 2022 replacement? Then he says some things that I said that I didn't exactly say. Look, I can't answer this question. If you guys want to, go ahead.
That's bad business. You never want to do that. These coaches are all friends to some degree at some point. If a coach from wherever comes to Konzo and be like, gosh, I just got a call from your AD, or my agent did. What's going on? You've got 2 years left, where you're safe. That doesn't work. ADs don't work like that. This AD's had enough trouble with coaching searches. I think just stay quiet on that front for now.
And if he knows what he's doing, which we have to assume he does, yeah, he has a little piece of paper in his desk that has some names on it, but you don't go fire coaches. You don't try to replace a coach that has at least a year and a half left. Josh, I think asked this solely for Dave Matter. Have you jumped on the Battlehawks bandwagon?
I've watched the Cacaw's play a little bit. I think the games itself, or the production value, is they're trying to make up for the lack of maybe talent on the field, but it's an interesting watch. I don't know if I'm going to watch every game, but St. Louis fans are fired up.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, I don't know. The XFL is kind of a weird thing. I do like all the highlights with just the Girl Scout cookies and then the Bud Light Seltzers. And all that kind of stuff is fun, but we'll see if this is sustainable. I think that's just the biggest thing. The checks are clearing, though, which I think is a long way.
I mean, it's improvement over the AFL or whatever that was. But the only thing, and I haven't watched any of it, but what the XFL clearly should have done is why do they have teams in New York and LA where there's already teams? Go places where there aren't football. I mean, that game in St. Louis, look, I like LaDainian Washington and Marcus Lucas, but that sold out for one reason.
Yeah.
That sold out so 29,000 people could come tell Stan Kroenke they hate him on national TV.
And now they're thinking about opening up the upper deck and making more spots available because there's a demand for the tickets. So if it works, great. I mean, it seems to be there. I think you're right. They've struck a nerve in that market. Will it work the same in a place with NFL teams? I'm not sure.
Well, and St. Louis obviously better than either of us do. In 2 years, if this is basically minor league football, is that wave still carrying
I'm not
over?
sure, especially in 2 years.
Or once the Cardinals start playing?
Well, in 2 years, they're going to have an MLS team, too, which is going to be very popular. So we'll see. I think it's fun for now. We'll see how long it lasts.
All right, so we'll take a break here on Battlehawk Sidelines for the week, and we'll come back and finish things up. I guess we'll talk a little bit about Mizzou again. You are watching Tiger Sidelines on MC. We are back to finish things up here on season 6, episode 26. I'm glad somebody keeps track of that. That's a lot of us talking over the last 6 years. Not so itchy though. This is so it's season 1, episode 1. Yeah. All right, so we'll finish up. Talk a little football, spring football. Again, we do this dance every year. Rumor has it starts next Thursday. We don't really know when, how often, or who we'll get to talk to. We do know the spring game is going to be April 11th, the day before Easter, which I don't know.
It seems like the SEC Network and TV kind of dictate that because they kind of spread those out. I think Auburn's is also that day. Not great if you want to get fans from Columbia to come to the game because they may be traveling for the weekend. But nonetheless, I guess we're going to be able to watch some of spring football. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully a week from now we'll know because they're going to be started pretty soon. It's the most interesting spring in how long? I mean, it's not just a new head coach. It's a new head coach that's not from here. With Barry Odom, we still kind of knew what it was going to look like to some degree. Now it's going to be completely different.
Yeah, I mean, most interesting spring is certainly a relative term. You've never covered spring football. I'm sure you've heard good things about how exciting it is.
Yes, I'm looking forward to just being able to talk to X's and O's because so many fans are just like, hey, what can we expect from Eli Drinkwitz in the scheme? I'm like, I don't know. We haven't watched a single thing. And
he's not going to tell us.
We're not going to pick anything up from spring football, especially. Right. I mean, the players are learning a new scheme and all that kind of stuff, too. So it's just like nobody knows what they're getting into. And I think that is kind of exciting, but there's only so much of that excitement you're going to get from spring football.
Well, and the one interesting part of it is, theoretically, outside of Nick Bolton, I think every job is legitimately up for grabs at this
It should
point.
be on offense. I mean, you got 2 running backs, so it doesn't matter. One of them will start. Offensive line, there's nobody that should feel safe about starting last year. It means they're going to start this year. Defensive line, you got guys like Kobe Whiteside are back. And
They may not even have
Chris
defensive
Turner.
ends. So.
Tyree Gillespie had a good year. But yeah, I think things should be wide open on that side of the ball. And Nick Bolton is I guess you can call him the face of the program. It should be Eli Drinkwitz because he's the guy you're trying to sell for things going forward.
Yeah, and he is definitely selling. He's out there, and if you listen to him at any of these appearances, he'll say some things. And he's not shy. He said in Kansas City last week, just because KU and K-State are recruiting a guy, it doesn't mean we'll necessarily look at him. We're trying to play in the best league in college football here, so he'll talk.
Did KU fans know he said that?
All 6 of them heard it, I think. Yeah. All right, so this is the part of the show where Bo generally knows what he's talking about, and I have to read off a sheet here. Softball 3-3 in the Mary Nutter Classic. Oregon State, New Mexico, and Cal were the wins. Arizona, UC Davis, and Seattle, which I guess is a school, were the losses. Missouri 12-5 on the season. maybe a little bit of
Down
the
the
shine off from 9-0.
Yeah, you go out West Coast and they're playing a bunch of games, so I don't know if their pitching will line up like it will on a weekend SEC series because you got to throw more pitchers out there. But they're 12-5. They should feel good about that, I guess.
And as it snows outside in Columbia today, Missouri getting ready to host its own tournament in Columbia. We got to do something about how early these diamond sports start in the spring. This is ridiculous.
Well, it's more ridiculous up north, because I'm from Michigan, so Michigan State doesn't play, a home game until something like May or April or whatever, and they go pretty deep into the summer. So I think it's weird just because Mizzou plays in the SEC and there's such a culture for it, but they don't exactly play in the warmest of states, so that doesn't help.
We've noticed that. Yeah, baseball 2-2. They beat Utah, lost to Kansas State, split with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, which actually is you hear that and think it's a mid-major, but that's a good baseball program. 4-3 to start the season. Just kind of plugging along.
Yeah, they've been their offense. They'll score 10, 12 runs, and then they'll kind of go quiet. They were really quiet in their game on Monday. They've got a tough weekend coming up. They play 3 teams from the Big 12: Texas, Oklahoma State, I believe, and Baylor too. So it's nice to see them getting back with some familiar opponents, but it's going to be a challenging weekend.
They also played McNeese State. You have a scouting report on McNeese State baseball?
I don't know if I know where that's fit.
Lake Charles, Louisiana. I have family.
I would have guessed Kentucky.
That is cool.
Lake Charles.
So I would have been wrong. But again, 4-3, and they do host McNeese, or travel to McNeese. I guess the home opener isn't for another week and a half. Then to Texas for the Shriners Hospital for Children Classic. Baylor, Oklahoma, and Texas in that. Wrestling beat Iowa State 27-6 in the final match of the regular season, finished 12-7, 8-0. First win over a ranked opponent. MAC championships coming up. Mizzou will win that.
The Missouri
because
championships.
That's what they do, right. And, I don't know. Gymnastics lost to LSU. Helen Hu won the all-around and the beam titles. They face Lindenwood, Minnesota, and Ohio State. Anybody got closing thoughts? Anything you didn't get to say?
Gymnastics, I'm going to table my gymnastics thoughts till next week.
Okay, gymnastics and Battlehawks on next week's show when Bo Bayman might be back. Who knows? He might stay in Jamaica. So I probably shouldn't have given that away. Whatever. Bo will be here eventually. Suichi, maybe he'll stick around. Like, we didn't drive you off yet.
Oh, sure. Yeah, whatever. I'm free, 23. So.
He'll cash Bo's paycheck. All right. So, again, thanks to Dave and Suichi. And behind the scenes, Matt and Bill and Brian. This has been Tiger Sidelines on MC22. We will be back next week.